the scarecrows were a little less covered, and partially because, and I didn't know Helena, but because this is the first day, I put up more gauze. I said, here, I'll put this up so you can kind of hide behind it if you want to. And she went, oh, okay, yeah. So that was the first inclination I got of somebody who likes to hide. Here's somebody in ape makeup and wants further things to hide behind. So I think we sort of connected on that level right there on the first day somehow. Because she used it very well, you know. She used it in a interesting, flirty way, which was really good. Way of shooting, actually, and always scary because when you haven't really tested the makeups and things like that, you know, we tested them, but you get in a real situation where you have to shoot, is usually end up throwing out the first few days of footage. At least that's happened to me in the past, and this one we actually didn't have time to reshoot or throw out footage. So. But again, I got to work with these good people, so they nailed it pretty good on the first day. Playing cards, painting is a crucial element of this movie. You know, you got people dressed up like cavemen, you got apes, they're talking, you're coming in the middle of a sequence. You know, you're starting out not at the beginning of the film, you're starting out in the middle. Really don't know. You can talk about a film for only so long. That's the weird thing about a film like this. You really don't know the vibe and the energy until you really get there. And that's, at least for me, how I find it to be. They're talking apes, and they're talking about all this stuff, you know. That's why I wanted to bring it back to, you know, another context. So, like, having them be more about she's flirting with him even though she's saying something else, just to try to bring it back to a more simple reality somehow, and not it be, because it could very easily go into the other direction. The beginning of the film was an amazing thing because, you know, we went out on a boat and so where they just crashed the first ship and they showed us where they'd shot some of the other stuff. So it was a very kind of good energy, kind of an inspirational energy to be out there. And we used it in a different context. Again, anything we used from the original, we tried to put in a different context. So it was something that was, I don't know. The good thing about being on a location is you get another textural vibe. There's something about being in the elements and the weather and all of that that just makes it more real. In November, and so it was starting to get really, really cold, and we had to have actors go into the water, and it was losing. They hadn't had rainfall in months, so they were losing water, and we had to pump in. You know, as you know, there's so much stuff that happens that nobody ever sees or really cares about. But no, it was a huge, you know, it's like moving a huge circus to town, and then all by boat. Everything had to be transported by barge and boat over to this little island. I don't know how many, you know, hundreds of makeup people alone, you know, and then all the stuff that they need. It's a real domino effect I mean, I was amazed. I thought, it's like you're building a full city each place you go. Budgetary problems on some of this stuff. Thought we were shooting an elaborate Land of the Lost episode. Safe way to trip a horse. I'm an animal lover, and I like to, you know, I think that the things about protecting animals, or, you know, even kids, I mean, if they said, you know, you can't have children in show business, I would accept that, because it's such a harsh, weird thing, you know. And so you know, we tried to be very careful, especially, I don't know if it's because it's Planet of the Apes, the animal motif was very present, therefore, you know, people were very attuned to you know, animal protection rights, which I'm all for. I worked with horses on the last film I did, and I find them pretty scary too. They're very, I have a weird energy with horses. They're very unpredictable as well, and they get very skittish, and I don't think they like filming either, because they seem to know where the camera is pointed, and then therefore know to go just outside of that range at every given moment and do exactly. I don't think they like it. and so therefore they're very. One or doing something like that is quite dangerous. Use trips, but they, what you don't see is they probably had to shoot them afterward. This in his look, where he'd just hold the position sometimes, which again, I thought was quite good. And that sort of paranoid shift in the eyes, just sort of back and forth. He used to say, just let the mask do the acting. Balls a little bit. I just sort of wanted to have him sort of basically go ape shit. So, to just, and again, then calm himself down. Just, it said he got angry, but we just sort of wanted to display it in a more ape-like manner, and so therefore, it something that's described in the script as like they gets angry, takes a little longer than that to shoot. We had to do a lot of things that took a lot of time, but for an ape, it's just a second nature. So, I mean, we tried to present their just sort of them getting angry is different than us getting angry. To watch with the ape movements, because I said to our people, they shouldn't move exactly, we don't want them to be exactly apes. I mean, it's still that reversal. And so I tried to suggest things that, when you see an ape-like thing that's ape-like, but tie it into a human thing. And so that all of the ape school stuff was about a mixture of things, a mixture of ape and human together to kind of come up with its own kind of new weird version that wasn't either or, but you could find connections in them. He had basically a 70-30 percentage of ape human, although with Thade his ape percentage went up. Some of the apes, their percentages went down, and oftentimes, and this is the thing I tried to say to everybody too, it's like just when we'd all think we'd figured it out, we'd do another scene and something like we thought was now a known way to do it didn't quite work that way. So it was always, every day was just organic that way, and every day we're just always trying to just ask that question, because in fact a lot of people who thought, and this would be some way background, that didn't get the opportunity to go through ape school, it's a little scary when people decide they want to act like an ape. It's like we'd see,
Sorry, interrupted.
Have these big scenes in the city, and then I'd look at the monitor back and I'd go, oh my God, there's somebody acting like a complete spastic, back there. And like, you could see somebody in their mind thinking they were acting like an ape, but it's like, it was truly frightening. And so we had to watch like what people were thinking was ape. Because like when you're a kid, you're jumping around like an ape, and some of it kind of looked like that.
Dropped in from the stars.
Making movies, I'd storyboard everything. But as it went along, and I think it started actually from the beginning, from Pee-wee's Big Adventure and then Beetlejuice, it started storyboarding less and less, because you'd work with like good people, like good actors, good improv people that were good at coming up with things. And so I got really into that energy. Also with these kind of movies where you're covering up people and it takes a long time, it's very important to keep as much spontaneity as possible. And then when you're working with good actors, it's like you want to see, that's part of the energy of it, is letting them kind of come up with it. I mean, give them enough of a framework, but at the same time let them do what they do, which, be creative, act. And so I found that from each and every movie, it gets less and less. Obviously, you have to storyboard some effects things, and I like doing little drawings and or doing storyboards, because sometimes you get a good shot idea comes out of a storyboard. But I also find it makes people, it drives me crazy, because they look at a storyboard and they take it completely literal. And this goes back to that literal mindedness of some things. Some people can look at them and go, I get the idea of this. Some people look at it and go, oh, like it's completely literal. And that drives me crazy, because I like working all that stuff out as we go, and it keeps the energy for everybody going. This type of movie, if you try to follow a story, you couldn't either. I mean, you can't, because it's dimension.